From Uber driver to millionaire in New York City, the city that eats the unprepared. When I first arrived in New York City, I thought the skyline was welcoming me. I didn't realize it was sizing me up. The buildings didn't look like architecture. They looked like judges. Tall, silent, watching. The first night I stood outside Penn Station holding 2 suitcases and 1 oversized dream. The wind hit my face like the city was testing my balance. Welcome, it seemed to say. Let's see how long you last. I had $3,200 saved, a degree, confidence, and zero understanding of how brutal rent in Manhattan could be. I ended up in Queens, 4-bedroom apartment, 4 strangers, 1 bathroom, 1 broken heater that worked based on vibes. My room was barely bigger than the mattress inside it. If I stretched my arms, I could almost touch both walls. But I told myself, temporary. Everything is temporary when you're still hopeful. Rejection has a smell. Job interviews became my routine. Every morning I'd iron my only blazer and take the subway under the East River into Manhattan. There's something humbling about underground trains. You go down full of ambition, you come back up with reality. I interviewed near Wall Street, near Times Square, near Goldman Sachs. Everywhere smelled like coffee and pressure. They would smile, nod, write notes, then email, "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." After the 6th rejection, I stopped checking emails immediately. After the 10th, I stopped expecting replies. After the 15th, my savings dropped below $500. That's when confidence begins negotiating with fear. Pride meets Uber. The day I downloaded Uber Driver, I didn't feel entrepreneurial. I felt defeated. The first time I picked up a passenger near Central Park, I kept my head slightly lowered. I didn't want to be seen. I told myself, temporary. But temporary can stretch if you're not careful. The $3 Nan. He smelled like expensive cologne and impatience. He talked loudly on the phone about a $4 million deal. "Yeah, bro, closing was smooth. Midtown property. Easy flip. Easy." When we arrived at his glass penthouse overlooking Central Park, he stepped out and said, "Keep the change." $3. I watched him disappear into luxury, and something inside me cracked. Not envy, not hatred, clarity. I didn't want his money. I wanted his leverage. That night, parked near the East River, I whispered, "God, don't just bless me, build me." I didn't know that prayer would be answered violently. 4:17 a.m. It was freezing. 4:17 a.m. Harlem pickup. An old man with silver beard and calm eyes entered my car. Silence for most of the ride. Then, "You are thinking too small." My hands tightened on the wheel. "You believe you are driving people, but you are studying them." My chest felt heavy. Before stepping out, he said, "Complaints are business prayers. Whoever answers them becomes blessed." Then he vanished into the dark. I never saw him again, but I never forgot. The pattern. Over months of driving across boroughs, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, I noticed something. Different neighborhoods, same frustrations. Handyman canceling, delivery fees ridiculous, elderly people stranded, busy professionals overwhelmed. Everyone needed something simple. Reliability. One woman in the Bronx said, "I don't need fancy apps. I need someone who shows up." That sentence changed my trajectory. One day I met a girl. The girl with the red scarf. It was raining. The kind of cold New York rain that doesn't fall, it attacks sideways. Pickup location, Soho. She entered my car wearing a red scarf and exhaustion. "Brooklyn, please," she said softly. Her voice wasn't dramatic, just tired. We drove in silence for 5 minutes before she sighed. "Do you ever feel like you're running but not moving?" That question didn't sound random. It sounded heavy. "All the time," I replied. She laughed lightly. "Good. I thought it was just me." Her name was Olivia. She worked in branding. Freelance. Always chasing clients, always underpaid. Somewhere on the Williamsburg Bridge, she said, "You're different." I smiled.
Because I don't talk much? No, because you listen. Nobody had ever complimented my listening before. When she got out, we exchanged contact, and she tipped me $5. But what stayed with me wasn't the tip. It was her last sentence. You won't be driving forever. Second person to say that. I started paying attention to patterns beyond business. The concept of quick fix wasn't dramatic. It didn't fall from the sky with angels singing. It came from repetition, from complaints, from elderly women climbing stairs alone, from busy executives saying, I just need someone reliable. I remember the exact night it stopped being an idea and became a decision. I was parked near the East River again. Same skyline, different mind. I can build something small, I told myself. Not an empire, just something useful. I invested almost all my savings, $2,000. When you're broke, $2,000 feels like betting your life. The developer built the first version. It was ugly. But it worked. Request, match, pay. I named it Quick Fix because people didn't need magic. They needed speed and trust. The first week after launch, nothing happened. No downloads, no orders, no excitement. Silence. Silence can be louder than failure. I kept driving Uber during the day. At night, I refreshed the Quick Fix dashboard like it owed me something. Nothing. One evening, I called Olivia. You ever build something and feel stupid? I asked. She laughed. Every week. I think I made a mistake. No, she said calmly. You planted something. Seeds don't scream when they grow. I wrote that down. Across New York City, thousands of people complained that week about small inconveniences. A leaking faucet, a missed grocery delivery, a prescription not picked up. None of them knew that in a cramped apartment in Queens, a man was building something meant to answer those complaints. Destiny rarely announces itself loudly. It builds quietly. The snowstorm that changed everything. January hit like punishment. Snow fell heavy. Delivery apps crashed. Prices doubled. People panicked. My phone buzzed. Quick fix. 3 requests. Then 8. Then 17. I texted every driver personally. Boots on. We move. We delivered groceries. Shoveled sidewalks. Carried medication. One elderly man opened the door slowly and said, I didn't think anyone would come. He held insulin in his shaking hand. You saved me, he whispered. That moment was bigger than revenue. By the end of the week, neighborhood Facebook groups were posting, use Quick Fix. They actually show up. Orders tripled. Money entered my account while I slept. That night I didn't celebrate. I sat quietly, because something bigger than business had just happened. Trust had been built. But I knew success attracts 2 things, attention and envy. Marcus was one of the first drivers who joined Quick Fix.
Charismatic, smart, ambitious, too ambitious. One evening, Olivia called me. Have you seen this? She sent a link. A new app, almost identical concept, launched by Marcus. My stomach dropped. He had copied our system, undercut pricing, messaged some of our drivers privately. That night I couldn't sleep. Anger feels hot, but fear feels cold. What if he destroys us? I asked Olivia. She paused. Then you rebuild, but don't react emotionally. The next morning, I didn't attack him online. I improved service instead. Customer loyalty beat cheap pricing. Marcus' app collapsed in 4 months, but that betrayal taught me something. Not everyone clapping for you is loyal. I'm not dramatic, but this happened. One night, exhausted from stress, I fell asleep at my desk. I dreamed I was standing at the top of a skyscraper in Manhattan. Wind heavy. Below me, the city buzzed. The old man from 4:17 a.m. stood beside me. You are afraid of losing what you prayed for, he said. I don't want to fail, I replied. You already failed before. It didn't kill you. He pointed down. Build foundations, not hype. I woke up sweating. The next morning, I hired a stronger tech team instead of focusing on marketing. That decision saved us later. 3 months after the snowstorm, boom, I picked up a quiet man in Midtown. He didn't look flashy. He looked observant. What do you do besides driving? He asked. This time, I didn't shrink. I run a local task service startup. How many active users? We talked numbers the whole ride. When we arrived near Central Park, he handed me his card. Venture capital. For 2 days, I doubted myself. Imposter syndrome whispers loud, but hunger whispers louder. 6 weeks later, I stood in a glass office, pitching Quick Fix. They invested $250,000. When I left that building, I didn't feel rich. I felt responsible. Money didn't remove stress. It multiplied expectations. Servers crashed once. Customers complained loudly. Competitors tried to bury us with ads. I worked 18-hour days. Olivia and I argued more. "You're never present anymore," she said one night. "I'm building our future." "I need you now," she replied. Success costs something. The question is always, what are you willing to lose? In a small Queens apartment, a man stared at financial projections at 2 a.m. Across town, in Brooklyn, a woman with a red scarf stared at her phone wondering if ambition was slowly stealing love. Growth doesn't just stretch business, it stretches hearts. A larger logistics company offered to buy Quick Fix early. Mid-six figures. For someone who once had $142 in his account. That offer felt massive. I sat alone near the East River again. Same water, different numbers. I prayed, is this security or fear talking? The answer came quietly, you didn't build this to escape. You built it to expand. I declined. 6 months later, revenue doubled. Sometimes patience is more profitable than panic. Success doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door open and says, let's see if you're real. 6 months after declining the early buyout, we expanded aggressively across Brooklyn and parts of New Jersey. Growth looked beautiful on paper. Behind the scenes, chaos. One afternoon, my operations manager burst into my office. We've got a problem. A former contractor claimed misclassification. He filed a lawsuit. Small claim, but symbolic. If we lost credibility, investors would panic. That night I sat in the office alone. The city lights outside looked calm. Inside,
storm. I remembered when my only problem was gas money. Now lawyers were emailing words like liability exposure. I almost laughed. Success had upgraded my stress package. But I didn't collapse. I hired better legal counsel, restructured contracts, learned corporate law language I never wanted to know. We settled. Not because we were guilty, but because growth sometimes requires peace more than pride. And I learned something dangerous. Every level has new devil. It was 1:12 a.m. I opened the Uber app, driver mode. My thumb hovered over Go Online. I hadn't driven in weeks. Quick Fix had replaced my income. But emotionally, I was still holding on. Driving had been my classroom, my humiliation, my foundation. Finally, I pressed log out. Not dramatic, not loud, just quiet. I stared at the screen and whispered, thank you. Because without those nights circling Manhattan, without those strangers talking carelessly about millions, without that $3 tip, there would be no story. Success doesn't automatically save relationships. Olivia and I had grown through struggle, but growth changes gravity. One evening in Brooklyn, she looked at me carefully. I love who you're becoming, she said, but I don't want to compete with your dream. That sentence cut deeper than Marcus's betrayal ever did. I'm building for us, I said. I know. But sometimes ambition feels like a third person in the room. We didn't break up dramatically. No shouting. Just maturity. She moved to pursue her own agency out west. Before leaving, she said, you were never meant to stay small. Then she smiled softly. And neither was I. Some people don't stay in your life, they activate it. 2 years after launch, subject line, acquisition proposal. A regional logistics firm wanted us. This time, low 7 figures. Real money. Life-altering money. I didn't rush. I reviewed numbers. I spoke with advisors. I walked alone near Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. The wind felt familiar, like the city wasn't judging anymore. It was nodding. When the deal closed, the wire hit my account. 7 digits. I didn't scream. I didn't post. I sat in silence, because wealth earned through pressure feels peaceful. Months later, I was invited to speak at a small entrepreneurship event in Manhattan. Standing on that stage, I looked at the audience. Young faces, hungry eyes. I told them everything. The $142 bank balance, the $3 tip, the snowstorm, the betrayal, the lawsuit, the near sale. And then I said, your struggle is not punishment. It's positioning. Silence. Then applause. But that wasn't the moment that stayed with me. After the event, as the crowd dispersed, I saw him. White beard, calm eyes, standing near the back, the 4:17 a.m. man. My heart froze. I moved through the crowd. "Sir," I called. He turned slowly. Same eyes. "You remember me?" I asked. He smiled. "You remembered yourself." That was enough. Before I could speak again, someone bumped into me. For a split second, I lost sight of him. When I looked up, he was gone. No door opening. No crowd swallowing him. Just gone.
The real wealth: I didn't buy a Lamborghini. I didn't move into a penthouse. I paid off my parents' debts, invested quietly, funded small community service programs for elderly residents, the kind who once struggled up 4 flights of stairs. Sometimes I still walk past Central Park at night. I watch Uber drivers waiting for rides. I don't see struggle, I see classrooms. And sometimes, when the wind hits just right near the East River, I hear that voice in memory. You are studying. If you're watching this while feeling behind, listen carefully. You are not behind. You are being built. The job that embarrasses you might be introducing you to your future. The insult might be fuel. The delay might be design. And one day, when the wire hits your account, when the applause surrounds you, when the skyline no longer intimidates you, remember, you didn't just chase money, you answered prayers disguised as complaints. And somewhere in this city, there might still be a quiet old man at 4:17 a.m. watching, making sure you're paying attention.